Hey guys, we're here with Jeff Rosado.
Hey guys.
So Jeff, tell us what you did.
I went undefeated with Elemental Throne. 8-0, guys.
Can you show us a champion promo you got?
Yeah, sure can. Check that bad boy out. The champion promo by Vincent Pompetti. And this artwork is crazy.
Nice. I'm so jealous. Congratulations. Show us on that awesome deck people have been asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start off with the Elementalist here. Or the avatar rather. Yes, it is the Elementalist. If you guys don't already know, I'll actually just show what it does. So this is the original side here. This is the AP that I got from auction. Thank you, Elvira, again for providing this. This is just such an awesome card, and it's by far my favorite card in all of Sorcery. It just your generic health of 20, has 1 power, and then it has the ability to tap or draw a site, and then it provides one of each threshold, and just that alone is just enough to get you to play this very powerful deck. And yeah, so that's it for the Elementalist, basically. I'll just leave that, I guess. Yeah, I'll just leave that. Where's a good spot to leave it? Like right here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's still
cool.
on screen.
All right, so I'll just go into my artifacts. Starting off, we have the Philosopher Stone, Aquamarine Core, Ruby Core, Amethyst Core, Onyx Core. So we play all 5 of these legendary mana rocks. These are just very powerful, and the deck is basically functioning with these cards as its most powerful output. The Philosopher's Stone obviously making your spells cost 1 less, and being the fact that we're a 4-element deck, we get most of the full benefit of making each element get the discount. Of course, each core providing 1 mana and extra threshold as well with the Elementalist. With just these alone, you're able to generate mana and excel into your game plan as best as you can. Going into the most important artifact in the deck, we have the Immortal Throne.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so this is essentially, it's not my main win condition, it's definitely one of my favorite win conditions in the game. So essentially, whenever a player plays a card with the same mana cost as the number of counters on this card, that player draws a card, and then you increase the counters on the Immortal Throne. So basically, if this has 1 counter, if I cast a spell with 1 mana, since this matches, and I'm the player that played this, I get to draw a spell and then increase the counters. Now, if I play a card with 2 mana, this will increase again and I'll draw more cards. So why this card is insanely, just valuable right now is the fact that it just draws me cards. And that's the main point of it. It also has another ability where if an avatar is alone at the location of the Immortal Throne, and if this is at 8 counters, that avatar wins the game. If I draw into it, I always want to commit to it, and there could also be a grand chance that I can win with this. I did pull it off twice in the tournament, but again, the main use of this is that the fact it draws you cards. It can, your opponent can draw cards off of this, but you want to just try to take the initiative and gain as many counters as you can, because later on in the game, when you get those higher counters, it's going to be a little bit harder to make them go off. There was controversy on this card, and I'll go a little bit in depth on that later. But yeah, the Immortal Throne, it's like the namesake of the deck. You have these 2 cards. It started it all for me, and these cards are just absolutely amazing. So we're just going to go into the minions now. I have a Highland Princess, Grim Reaper, and Alvalinne Dryads. So these are also 2 mana, so these will also, help with the Immortal Throne's counters. But these minions are actually just really good by themselves. So Highland Princess, this deck can essentially play this card turn 1, and it's really good because if you can play this out as early as you can, this card has a Genesis ability that lets you search for any artifact with 1 or less mana. So you can fetch out a Philo Stone, you can fetch out any of these cores, and sometimes that could be really good for setting up plays with the Immortal Throne as well. But ideally, yes, this is just going to be your access to these very powerful artifacts, and it's a very powerful Genesis ability. You have Grim Reaper. This is essentially a removal spell on steroids. It has lethal, and whenever Grim Reaper kills a minion, it's banished. I get to search that owner's hand, their cemetery, and their spellbook for all copies of that card, and I banish them. So this is really good too, because I found out if you're going up against an Enchantress deck, if they animate a minion with Enchantress, and if you actually manage to get a kill with this on their aura, you can actually banish all copies of that aura as well. So this is actually just really sweet. It's also good when you have it with Grapple Shot, because you can essentially get multiple kill triggers off of this, and then you can actually take out your opponent's deck, or just rather strip them of their vital minions. Alvalinne Dryads, I actually dimmed this down. It used to be at 4, but now I put it down all the way to 1. I almost took it out, but I still like the 1. Essentially, this is just a core. It doesn't provide threshold, and it does cost extra, but when you have the Philosopher Stone out, this is going to get the discount, and then it's going to be 1 mana anyways. So essentially, it's 1 mana, provides 1 mana right off the bat, but the only added bonus is that it can attack. And
so it's
that's
basically for free.
Yeah, essentially. It is for free, and also at the same time, it's kind of good too with Immortal Throne, because you can play like a Philosopher's Stone, get the trigger from the Immortal Throne, and then if you play the Alvalinne Dryads, even though it has the discount, its printed cost is still 2, so then you'll increase the counters as well. It's really good. So
those are your 2s?
Yeah, these are all my 2s. Going into my 3s is actually the most important 3 in the deck. This is Apprentice Wizard. This card is just so sweet. Like, the artwork is amazing, and also it's just a very balanced card. For 3 mana, it's a spellcaster, and it has Genesis, which lets you draw a spell. So essentially, this is just going to get you through your deck more. You're going to see more cards with it, and comboing it off with the Immortal Throne as well, it draws you more cards. The spellcaster ability comes in handy too, and I'll explain more combos later. So going into my 4 costs, I have a Ruler of Thul. So this is, yeah, it's a really sweet card. I added this card in recently. It's trying to just close out the game as quickly as it can.
It also adds a lot of movement to your cards.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, whenever you're starting all the way over here in the realm, you have to take a turn, move 1, move 2, and then 3 all the way over here. But with Ruler of Thul's ability, he has charge, so he can attack on the turn he's summoned, but his other ability says allies can move from the top and bottom of each side of the realm as if they were connected, and then all allies occupying those sites there get 1 power. So essentially, I can just move it all the way straight to my opponent's side of the realm, and I can dish out a ton of damage. Even if I had, you know, this, because he says allies, I can actually use him with my avatar as well. And even with just these 3 attacking, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage with just 3 cards. That closes out games like just out of nowhere. And the fact that he can attack on the turn he's summoned is just crazy. This card is actually the truth. Like, it is really powerful. We have 2 Clamor of Harpies. It's an airborne minion, and it also kind of helps with just closing out the game by having 3 power. It has a Genesis ability that teleports a weaker minion to its location, and then you have the option of having the Clamor of Harpies strike it. So this is actually pretty neat too, because I can actually teleport my minions, but the best part about that is that I can choose not to strike them. So for example, if I played the Clamor of Harpies, where my avatar is, and if I teleport my Apprentice Wizard here, I play Ruler of Thul, and now these minions are right where I need them to, and I can go ahead and use them to attack. And it's just really good, proper placement. That is one thing about it, but it's also just a removal spell, right? I can just target my opponent's weaker minions, I can strike them down, and essentially have a board presence there in the form of a minion. So it's really good. The Airborne's just really hard to deal with. I have 2 Selfsame Simulacrum. This card is so good. Essentially, we have all these really sweet Genesis abilities that we want to try and get off again. Selfsame Simulacrum is a way how we can copy our powerful minions, either activate their Genesis abilities or even stack their powerful passive abilities. And what's good is that it's a 4 cost, so it also does help with the curve on Immortal Throne as well. This card is just great.
And if your opponent has something stronger, you use that.
Yeah, absolutely correct. I can take advantage of their good abilities as well. Also, another good thing is the rarity restriction. So I can only have 1 unique of a card in my deck, right? But having the Selfsame Simulacrum gives me kind of additional copies if I manage to copy it at a good time. So essentially, I could potentially have 3 Ruler of Thuls. I could potentially have 5 Apprentice Wizards, and so forth.
It gives you a lot of flexibility.
Yes, it is just such a good card, and now I know why they made it an elite. It's so good. So going into our 5 drops, we have the Daperyll Vampire. I mean, everyone knows what this card does. She's so awesome. 5 mana, 4 power, has airborne, and then any damage that she deals from her strikes heals you. So that's really good. So if I'm going up against an aggro deck, this can essentially put me back into the game, give me life, and also having airborne and being able to attack diagonally just messes my opponent up.
It's a great later game because it looks like, you know, you're losing life and then you can come back with it.
Yeah, absolutely correct. It pushes that gap because I'm dealing damage to my opponent, but also increasing my life, and then I'm furthering that gap. So it prevents my opponent from really like excelling later on in the game. Another card that's like just really good for messing up my opponent is Courtesan Thais. What was that? You don't like those?
I hate when you play. I want the card to stay in my hand. I don't want you to play them and have control over them.
And that's exactly what this is in here for.
And you always limit the number of cards in your hand, so I have nothing to play.
Yep, you got me. You know me all too well. Like, playing this card it's just bonkers. Like, this card is just actually broken. It has a Genesis ability. During their next turn, each player is controlled by the previous one. So essentially we kind of just swap turns, a little bit more technical than that, but the idea is that I want to play this when my hand is really low, and then I take control of my opponent's turn and I can use their cards against them. So if they have Lightning Bolt, they have other burn spells or damage spells, I can deal damage to them. If they're playing Enchantress, I can cast a Poison Nova. Before it resolves, I can animate their aura from the Enchantress's ability, and then a Poison Nova will kill it. There's so much synergy and interaction with this card. It is just insane. And also having Selfsame Simulacrum allows me to have multiple copies of it. So if there's ever a time where I'll get to play 2 Courtesan Thais triggers in one game, I'm usually in a good seat at that point. You got all that right there?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So going into, I think, probably the most versatile minion in the deck is Grandmaster Wizard. So this guy is basically just a bigger Apprentice Wizard. 6 mana, 0 power, yeah, but it has Spellcaster and the Genesis ability that allows me to draw 3 spells, and that is just value. Again, with Selfsame, I can stack them and I can draw more cards, and that's the name of this deck. You want to draw as many cards as you can. The more cards in your hand, the more ability you'll have and more advantage you'll have over your opponent. However, even if you don't have many cards in your hand, you still have cards like this that allow you to use your opponent's cards. So it's just crazy. Like, the amount of value that this deck produces is just crazy, and drawing more cards just allows you to just further progress the game in your favor. So for our 7s, I have an Ancient Dragon. I don't really get to play this card much, but when I do, it always usually just wins me the game. 6 power, free for 7 mana, but it does have airborne as well, and it has an ability that allows it to tap and deal 4 damage to each other unit at a nearby location. So essentially, if my opponent has lots of minions around this, I can usually just take my chance and just deal 4 damage to it, or I can swing diagonally or just straight into the face for 6 damage, and it's just really strong. It's just a really good beefy minion, and it's also, again, it's a 7 cost, so we can trigger out the Immortal Throne. For our other 7 costs, we have the Legendary Death Dealer. Genesis kills all other minions. It doesn't matter if they're burrowed, submerged, in the void, it does not matter. This will just kill everything when it enters play, and it's just so good. It's such a powerful minion, it's crazy. Another powerful minion that I added, and it's actually the last minion in the deck, is just so good, and it's Great Old One. Yes, 8 mana, it is very hefty, but 16 power and Submerge, and whenever it enters play, it floods the entire realm. That is just crazy. If my opponent has Root Spiders, this kills it. If my opponent is playing a burrow deck where they play Bury, Cave In, this prevents them from even using those cards, because when the realm is flooded, they can't burrow it, they can only submerge it, which is great because it has Submerge. So even if they were to submerge it, this guy is going to swim around and stay in the realm.
It's a game changer.
Good. It really is. And again, 16 power, and you'll see the cards that I have the combo off with it. You can close out the game like usually in just 1 or 2 attacks. It is that good, and it is a very good answer against Earth style strategy decks. So that's it for those. Let me just go into my spells now. So for our ones, I have Dream Quest, Browse, and Immolation. Dream Quest, I don't really get off as much. A lot of people are starting to catch on that you have to deal damage to the ally you put to sleep, because ideally what you do is you'll have a spellcaster, you'll put it to sleep, and as long as it doesn't take damage, on your next turn, this card lets you search your deck for any spell. That is crazy. This is a free tutor for any card you want. You can get the Immortal Throne, you can get Courtesan Thais, you can get your big beefy minions, you can get anything that you want that's super relevant. The only catch though is that you have to make sure that that minion doesn't take damage. So there's a neat little trick that I have with Dream Quest. You just basically give your opponent an offer they can't refuse. So if you have like Great Old One in play and that's threatening them to put them on death's door, they're going to try to prioritize that or try to use their strategy to focus on this card, which is great because now you can have the Apprentice Wizard here, you can play Dream Quest, and essentially your opponent has to make a choice. They have to stop the card that's threatening them from losing the game, or they have to stop the unknown. They have to stop a card that's always going to be good, a card that's always just going to power out the game and give you the biggest advantage possible. Of course, you always want to try to deal damage to the spellcaster, but even if so, like there's so many ways and so many reasons to play this card. It's so good. Browse as well is also good. For just 1 mana, this allows you to look at the next 7 spells of your deck. You can choose one of those cards and then put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your spellbook in any order. I actually played this on a game where I was running really low on cards, and putting the cards back in a specific order actually benefited me, because when I started drawing that deep into my deck, I knew what I was going to draw afterwards, and it helped me plan my turns out. But that's a little bit more complicated. Ideally, the whole point of it is that it controls a draw, and it's a very good draw. Looking at the next 7 cards and choosing which card you want to draw is just huge. Now we have Immolation, also 1 mana. It's really good when you have other spellcasters utilize it throughout the board. It deals 7 damage to a target nearby minion, and that's really it. For the most part, as long as your opponent's not, I guess, playing a Great Old One, this can kill all these minions. So essentially, this can really just kill any minion, so long as it exists in the same region. And yeah, it's just really sweet. Other removal spells, and probably just the rest of the deck is just removal, essentially. I have 4 Lightning Bolt. You really want to play Lightning Bolt. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but I love Lightning Bolt because, I mean, as you can see, it kind of kills a good majority of minions. 3 damage is just a lot.
If you can keep one of those at death's door, you have an easy win.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great game finisher. If your opponent's on death's door and their avatar's all alone, this will just automatically win you the game because you can just deal damage to them and they lose. Just literally an automatic win. And again, even if you just add it up, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage with just these 4 cards, all I need to do is essentially just deal a couple strikes with Daperyll Vampire, and these Lightning Bolts can just take over the game automatically. I've even used Dream Quest to search Lightning Bolt and browse to search up the Lightning Bolt on the following turn, and that was enough to win me the game. Like, these little points of damage add up, and that's another reason why Ruler of Thul is just crazy powerful. Another card that's crazy powerful, and I'm surprised I didn't really see too much of it this weekend, is Grapple Shot. That this card literally just breaks the deck. It allows your minions to strike twice, it closes distance, and also at the same time, it's just a way of how you can also guarantee killing someone on death's door, because if you have a clear path, you can use this to strike your opponent, close the distance, and then just win the game. I love using it with Daperyll Vampire. It's essentially only just here for Daperyll Vampire because it allows her to strike twice, deal damage twice, and then give me life twice. If you can stack grapple shots with Daperyll Vampire, it just gets really out of hand. It's also insanely good with Great Old One because I can attack for 16 damage, use grapple shot, sling this in. Now my opponent's on death's door with just these 2 cards. Like, literally, this is a 2-card combo that gets your opponent on death's door. It's literally broken. Like, it's crazy. Another card that combos with Great Old One to put him on death's door, and
this is your favorite.
Yeah, this is my most recent favorite card to play with. This card is crazy, and it's Chaos Twister.
You spent 2 weeks practicing with that card.
Like, I literally did.
Hours.
Like, literally. Like, I wanted to break this card. Like, I thought this card was not good. Essentially, yeah, you place a minion on the back of your hand, and from a height of at least 1 foot, in one breath, you blow the minion off, and wherever it lands on that location, it deals damage to itself and everything there. So essentially, if I have a Great Old One, and if I use Chaos Twister, if I land it correctly, and if I use the ramp method, go check out my Chaos Twister video, you'll know what that is. If I blow it off and land it properly on my opponent's avatar, the Great Old One will take 16 damage, resulting in killing itself, but it would also deal 16 damage to my opponent's avatar. If they have other minions there as well, they also take 16 damage. The only way how you wouldn't want to play this card is if you didn't have the ability to control where it lands. And that's why the Chaos Twister video I made is super crucial, because this kind of gives you a little bit of flexibility in controlling where it lands, and it makes you more comfortable using this card, because it's always just going to be a removal spell, and it's always going to be a damage spell.
You answer a lot of what ifs on that video.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course, there were some funny tricks that I did, but you know, it's all in the FAQ. You can read it and everything is all legit. Really, the only time when this card doesn't work is if you start blowing the card and it doesn't fall off, the effect fizzles. So these squares here actually identify a location. If the card falls out of the square, it fizzles. Or if it lands in between, you choose which side has the most leverage or coverage, and then you choose that as your site location. And then if this also lands in the void, this gets banished. And that's actually another broken thing about Chaos Twister. If I'm going up against a Death Speaker deck, and if I have Chaos Twister, sure, I want to deal damage to my opponent's avatar, but it also is safer just to kind of blow the minion in the void because it gets banished. And why that's crucial is because Death Speaker can't bring it back with its ability. So that's just really crucial to know. That's why this deck is awesome. There's just so many layers to it and so many ways to play it. Last card in the deck, and it's probably one of the most powerful, is Pact with a Double. Essentially, I sacrifice the caster, or I lose half of my life rounding up, and if I do, I draw 3 cards. 3 cards, not 3 spells, so I can choose to draw sites too if I wanted to. This card is very risky if I am using Courtesan Thais, because unfortunately if I do play Courtesan Thais and they draw this, they will just automatically just let me lose half my life. Yeah, they'll give me more cards, which is great, but losing half my life is usually never it. But that's why I need these spellcasters, because if I have them, I draw a card from them, and then I can use the Pact with the Devil to draw more cards by sacrificing them. So, can you see the bottom of this?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to move this up a little bit. Alright, so now getting into my sites, I have the color out of space. This card is actually like, I think it's the best site in the entire game. I think that every deck should be playing this, or at least every 2-color deck and above should be playing this. It provides 1 mana and 1 of each threshold, but if it is not adjacent to the void, it loses its ability. But this is really cool too, because we have Smokestacks of Gnaak. Because there's a neat little interaction here where if I have the color out of space and Smokestacks nearby it, Smokestacks actually negates this debuff ability. So that means that this card will always provide its mana and always provide its threshold. It's actually really nuts. And another reason why this card is just bonkers is because if I play it right here in the center of the realm as my second site for the turn, everything that's nearby it will lose all of its abilities. So usually after that, if my opponent plays powerful sites, they'll lose their effect anyways. So it's okay if I negate my abilities, but it's more important if I negate my opponent's site's abilities. Getting on to 2 sites that I actually just recently added in, and I'm really happy to discuss with you guys today, is Pillar of Zeiros and then Kingdom of Agartha. So I wanted to counteract a way to fight Root Spider, and this deck doesn't have that much Earth Threshold, but whenever it assembles the 3 Earth Threshold, Kingdom of Agartha gives all minions burrowing. That means they have the ability in their hand as well, so they can summon minions burrowed, which is super crucial because if my opponent has a Root Spider underneath my Daperyll Vampire, it's going to be pesky to get rid of, but if I have Kingdom of Agartha, I can summon the Clamor of Harpies underground, and then the Clamor of Harpies can actually teleport the Root Spider and strike it. And that's usually why I have it in there. It's just a way to get out of it. It's also another reason why these spellcasters are really good, because even if I don't have Clamor of Harpies. I can summon the Apprentice Wizard underground, and since it's a spellcaster, I can use Lightning Bolt to strike it underground. Going on to the next site is Pillar of Zeiros, Genesis. It banishes all dead minions, and then I gain 1 life for each. So this is just an automatic
life gain.
Yeah, it's automatic life gain. It's really good against Death Speaker too, because I don't want them to have any resources from my Genesis abilities as well as my opponents. And later on in the game, this card just gets crazy. Actually, as a matter of fact, that's another reason why I play Alvalinne Dryads over something like Land Surveyor, because if I am going up against Death Speaker, I'd rather them not just get the Genesis trigger from the Land Surveyor, and also the Alvalinne Dryads produces the 1 mana immediately when I come and play. So there's just so much neat interactions against certain deck styles. Going on into one of the most broken sites ever is the Geistwood, and I actually discovered this combo like months ago, and everyone like blew up about this combo. It's really sweet. So Geistwood says all Genesis abilities here are Deathrite abilities. So essentially what I'll do is I'll play a Grandmaster Wizard here, draw 3 spells, and if I happen to have a card like Pact with the Devil, if I sacrifice the Grandmaster Wizard as cost, I'll draw 3 more spells from the Pact with the Devil. But since the Grandmaster Wizard had Genesis and died on the Geistwood, now the Deathrite trigger will activate, drawing me 3 more cards. So this is a 3-card combo that can draw you 9 cards. So that's why it's just really crucial if I play these powerful Apprentice Wizards and Grandmaster Wizards, because if I draw spells with them, and if they die on the Geistwood, I'll just reactivate their abilities. It's also really good too, because if I have Courtesan Thais, if she dies on the Geistwood, I get to reactivate her Genesis trigger, also taking control of my opponent on the following turn.
I love the artwork and the Geistwood too.
Yeah, Ian Miller has just so much detail in all his artworks, and I just absolutely love it.
It looks really cool in person.
Oh yeah. So we have Vaults of Zul. Vaults of Zul, I haven't really been getting off much recently, but at the same time, it's just still a good card to play. With Vaults of Zul, whenever an avatar moves there for the first time, that avatar skips their next turn, but then they draw 3 cards. Again, drawing 3 cards, not 3 spells, so this allows me to draw sites too if I need to. It's very risky to skip a turn, but if you're already progressed in the game and you're already having an advantage, skipping a turn doesn't really matter as long as you're gaining that advantage and drawing more cards, and also drawing more options. You do have to be careful with this, but if you play your cards right, you might be able to gain an insane amount of advantage. We now have Boneyard. So Genesis ability, each player gets to summon a minion from their cemetery here. And again, this is just really good for just bringing back very powerful minions and also just gaining back very good advantage. You can even bring back a Ruler of Thul if it's placed properly and then use it to attack immediately. It's just really good. Boneyard is actually like one of my favorite sites. It's just so good. So this is actually the card that started the controversy on the Immortal Throne. Because you see here, the Immortal Throne states whenever a player plays a card, this triggers, right? So what that means is if I cast Lightning Bolt, this recognizes this as being played, but since it's being cast, and also because of the timeline, this will trigger, and since this triggered last, it will activate first, essentially drawing me a card, increasing the counters, and then the Lightning Bolt will resolve. Now here's the crazy part. What happens if I play Boneyard, bring back a Genesis minion, and both of their abilities would stack at the same time? That's what started the controversy, because everyone said that play means cast, but that's not true, because with the Immortal Throne, if you play a site, playing a site has no mana, it's not casting, so then that means that the Immortal Throne will gain a trigger as well because you are physically playing a site. So this also states that if I'm physically playing a minion with the same amount of counters on it, both of them trigger at the exact same time, and the only relevance to that is that I can choose what happens first. I can choose to draw a card with the Immortal Throne first, or I can choose to activate the Grandmaster ability first. 2 separate play triggers, 2 different timing triggers. That's why the Immortal Throne is absolutely insane. We have Mirror Realm. Almost every deck needs to play this, regardless if you have good sites or not. This card comes in play as a copy of any nearby site. which allows you to get all their powerful Genesis abilities, but also allows you to get different zones with extra abilities as well. So just being able to copy just anything in this game is just really good. We have our last unique here, and it is one of the most insane additions to my deck.
I hate playing against that.
You sure you don't like this? I absolutely love this card. This card is just
especially
crazy.
Against an aggro deck like mine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you destroy everything early, and at that point you have an advantage because you know you're going to play it.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And as a matter of fact, I've showcased a few strategies with this deck too, where I will actually play a site on my first turn, and then the ability says I get to tap, play, or draw a site. So essentially what that means is that if I start the game off with like a Roots, and if I have Sinkhole or a way to blow it up, I'll let my opponent take their turn, they'll start stacking cards in play, and every turn I'll draw a spell from my initial draw phase, but then I'll use the Elementalist to draw a site. And over time, when my opponent has built up a very broken board, I can use Sinkhole, blow this up, blow up everything, but now the relevance is that I've been drawing 2 cards every turn. Yes, I've been drawing sites with this, but I've been drawing a spell also on my initial draw phase, which also allows me to progress the game, reset everything, but now I reset the board with a bigger hand, and that's why this card is just absolutely insane. It's really good too because it destroys everything underground as well, everything in the void, everything. So it's another way of getting rid of Root Spider if I have no way to access it underground. And then yeah, getting on into like the most broken site ever printed, probably like the most like broken card ever printed in a game, Sinkhole. This card has so many interactions. I don't have enough time to write a book about this, but I would if I could, because this card literally has that many interactions with it. You sacrifice Sinkhole, you destroy a nearby site. That's it. But what's good about it is that you can use the mana, spend it for something, and then sacrifice to destroy a site right after. And that is just crazy powerful. Like, you're putting your opponent back by destroying their sites, but you've already progressed when you cast something and maintain a board presence. It's just insane. It also is really crazy too if my opponent has Sinkhole, if I play Courtesan Thais, and if I use their Sinkhole on themselves, like, I mean, come on, man, it's a wrap after that. And then of course this with Roots of Yggdrasil is great. This with Mirror Realm is great because this increases the amount of copies you have in the deck, and you can even blow up your opponent's sites with just 2 Sinkholes, and then it just gets out of hand after that. So yeah, Sinkhole, really broken. You gotta play it. If you're not playing it, I don't know why you're not playing it, but it's literally free real estate. It's crazy. For our dual sites, and actually sites that really help with the Smokestacks of Gnaak, we have Oasis, we have Ruins, and we have Lighthouse. I used to play one of each. I've had some helpful suggestions. You guys know who you are. Thank you for giving me those suggestions. Rebalancing out the threshold has been really crucial. Our main elements in this deck are red and blue because we have all these 3 threshold cost cards, so the Oasis is absolutely vital. But having the air threshold in different forms is really good too because that's our main base of the deck. We have Grapple Shot, Lightning Bolt, Apprentice Wizard, and Daperyll Vampire. So having these 6 sites, it's just been perfect. My mana has just been on point. I haven't had any issues. If you wanted to play one of each, you could. And actually, that would help with the Kingdom of Agartha with getting this off. But honestly, even with this deck, there's ways to just get the triple threshold you need and then just excel the game from there. The last sites that I have are one of each tower. Everyone might be criticizing me that, oh, I should be playing more, but my logic to that is that I don't want to draw in multiple copies. Like, if I draw in a Gothic Tower and if I draw into another one, the first one will give me the benefit, sure, but if I draw into the second one, it's not going to give me benefit. Yeah, I could draw it sooner, but with every avatar, you can always choose to draw a site. So you can essentially draw a site for your initial turn and then use the ability to draw another site. So I never have to worry about struggling to draw my sites. I'm always usually just drawing what I need. I'm usually always getting my combos off, and I'm just, setting up very well with everything. So, and also another good thing, this is another reason why I've been playing the towers too, is because if I'm going first, I play a tower turn 1, right? So the tower, since is the only one of its copy there, I get 2 mana. It only has one air threshold, and with Highland Princess, I really want to play this turn 1, but I need to air threshold, right? That's another reason why the Elementalist automatically gives you the air threshold you need. So with this little combo, you can just play a tower turn 1, get a Highland Princess turn 1, and then fetch out a Philo Stone. Having this on your first turn is just so much value, and you're already on your way to progress the game and do really well.
Awesome, Jeff. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, just wanted to thank the community. Thank you guys for following me on my channel and supporting me since day one. Thank you, Sorcery, for creating this awesome game. I have just absolutely fell in love with it. You guys have been doing a successful job with it, and I absolutely love this game. So thank you guys so much. Elvira, thank you so much for creating the Elementalist, creating the Immortal Throne, and creating this really beautiful AP. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been inspired to play your cards. Your cards really inspired me to start playing this game, and I'm glad that I was able to inspire you to create this awesome AP that I now own, and I'm super honored for it. Mike Cervanti at Collectors Art House, you're my dude. I appreciate you. You're always creating just awesome content, and thank you for having me on your channel. It was a real blast. If you guys haven't checked that out, definitely go check that out on his YouTube channel at Collectors Art House. And yeah, as for everyone else in the community, thank you again for supporting me, and I'll continue to do my best to showcase you guys good content. The champ is here. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, have an awesome week.
See you later.